Greetings, everyone. How is it going? As you can see, I am not in my usual spot. I'm on vacation right now. And I have literally just enough space to make this work. In fact, I may even put up an image on screen showing exactly what this looks like, right? So the review for this week is going to be simpler than usual and not scripted. There's probably going to be lots of ums. I have the chapter right here in front of me on my laptop, so if you see me look down, that's why. And we're just going to go through this, talk a little bit about it, and, if I can get this out while I'm here, I will. That would be great. Here we are to review One Piece, chapter 1184, titled, Only Bones Get Left Behind. So with that, let's get started. Let's see how I do. Normally I script these, so I have some kind of structure, and that's not going to happen this time. But I've got the first page here. We have Princess Shuri, looking like a badass. Sword extended forward. She is now 14 years old, so we've jumped ahead about 7 years from the last flashback, I believe, or the last chapter. Same flashback, last chapter. I believe she was 7. Now she's 14. And we learn that there were 5 princes. 5. Who had gumption, who thought they had what it takes to court Princess Shuri to request her hand in marriage. What were they drawn in by? Well, let me tell you, rumors of her extraordinary beauty. Now, she dusts these guys. We don't see all the fights. We only see one where the guy's sword gets stabbed into the ground and he's on his back. I yield. So none of them had what it takes. And Shuri's like, you're all too weak. Scum. I have no interest in you. And they beg for forgiveness, and she continues, I have no interest in weak men. And on top of that, you buffoons, don't even think about approaching me if you cannot play music. And they seem shocked. They're like, music, really? I mean, guys, did you do your homework before coming into this? This is the kingdom of Esperia, the kingdom of musical instruments. Why would the princess of the kingdom of musical instruments not want a suitor who could play music? I mean, what this tells me, broskies, is that none of y'all understood the assignment. What you lacked was doing your research. Now we jump to the next page where we have a similar scene to last chapter where we have Brook, who is now 27 years old, still walking with Princess Shuri. And she is got the hearts. She's looking up at him. I mean, we knew Shuri had the hots for Brook, and that has not changed. And he's like, I hear you thrashed all your suitors, Princess Shuri. And he's, of course, the commander of Esperia's Guard Corps. So we kind of already knew that. And Shuri's like, I sure did, Brook-sama. You like strong woman, don't you? Don't you think that I, Princess Shuri, have grown stronger? Not to mention cuter. And she hits him with the heart. Man, it's funny. And he's like, well, Princess Shuri, yo ho 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 ho, you certainly have. And then she comes out swinging. Listen, guys, she comes out swinging. And I bet someday my boobs will be big enough to pop right out, too. And Brook's like, well, come on now, Princess Shuri. Don't say that. It is unladylike. And Shuri's like, seriously, you know what, Brook? You sound like my dad. Come on. And then here we get the origin of the Brook gag. He sees a few women from the Esperia Kingdom. Clearly, he now has eyes for more than just Candel, at least in this point. And he swoops in on his knee. My word, you're gorgeous. May I see your panties? And so here it is. Brook's been doing this since we met him. He did not do it in the last chapter. So, and perhaps he hadn't yet started doing that. And here he is. Shuri just chucks her sword at Brook and says, will you give that a rest already? So she's clearly tired of it. And I wonder if Shuri has been asked this by Brook even once. I'm willing to bet that the answer to that is no. No, she has not. Then we move to the next page, and we see Brook with his signature laugh, his yo ho 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 ho, which we did not see last chapter either. So this is either he began doing it in the last 7 years, or this is just our first time seeing it. But him and Shuri are sitting in the garden, and he's singing her a song that is such foreshadowing that he can have no idea. From progs to cattle, from kings to chattel, of the dead you'll find only bones get left behind. From progs to cattle, from kings to chattel, bones alone, as everyone knows. That's just the way the story goes. So Brook at 27, he's already singing about bones. You're not even in the Rumbar Pirates yet, Brook. Come on. Come on. What are we doing? And Shuri comments about how she loves Brook's songs. I mean, we learned last chapter that she loved his songs, so we definitely knew that. I just heard a train. I wonder if it'll come up in the mic or not. We'll see when I edit this. And Brook mentions that His Majesty told him the same thing about how he loves his songs. And now we're going to get a flashback within the flashback, a flashback, or is it a flashback back? Either way, Brook comments, or Shuri says, hey Brook, you really admire my dad, don't you? My mom too. And Brook's like, I guess he was my benefactor. If I had not crossed paths with him, by now, my bones would be left behind. Only my bones would be left behind. There would be simply no more of me. And now we cut back to Brook when he is 11 years old. So this is, 16 years ago? Of course, before Shuri is alive. And he's looking through a window at some children of the Esperia kingdom learning music in school. And he's commenting, Brook looks like he's homeless at this point. He's commenting on how it must be nice to attend a school with real instruments. And he's like, the kids, they sound so good. And then he gets caught by the staff. They start chasing him off, like throwing rocks and stuff. Or maybe they're just like chasing him off. Like, get out of here. That filthy street rat, he's peeping around again. Brook, of course, apologizes, but has to run away. And they shoo him off. A couple more of either staffers for the school or just civilians of Esperia comment about how he smells, and that Brook, at this moment in his life, is a stain on the country, on the kingdom of Esperia. So Brook really, like where we see him last chapter, and even in the current age of this chapter where he's 27, he is a far cry from what he was when he was growing up, right? And we see that very clearly here. And we also see this is where Brook really started his trend of jumping through the sky and singing. Like, he's singing a song about the king, basically calling the king bad. The king's bad, yeah, it's the king's bad. Oh, like he's blaming the king for his situation. Okay, it's the king's bad, whatever, something like that. I keep messing it up. But basically, Brook blames the king of Esperia, who we'll find out is not Leuven at this point in time, for the state that he's in. We see him comment about how his family doesn't have food to eat. he doesn't even know why he is alive. And he's just crunching on wart frogs to survive. Man, yeah, he's eating frogs and grasshoppers, guys. That is not... Brook, that is not a balanced diet, young man. But I guess it's definitely better than starving. And we then see Leuven come up to Brook. Those are some rotten lyrics. Did you write them yourself? And then Leuven's like, is that thing supposed to be a violin? Like, what is that, Brook? And Brook's like, that is correct. I made it out of a glass bottle and some wires. It sounds good, doesn't it? And Leuven's like, well, you know, Brook. Actually, I don't think he knows Brook's name at this point. Well, you know, kid, Bozu. It does have a freeing vibe to it, I guess. And then Brook comments that he's seen Leuven around. So it seems that Leuven noticed Brook before this moment, before this encounter, and has been in some way coming around and seeing him. And Brook asks if he's a fan. And Leuven's like, well, you could say that, but don't call me mister, I'm only 21 years old. And Brook's like, say what? You've got an old face. I mean, Brook, you're a kid, I'll give you a pass, but how rude. Leuven's not that old. Look at this, I have an old face. I don't even have that much of an old face, Brook, and I'm older than Leuven is here. And Leuven comments, you look like you've had it rougher than most. And that he's got an odd laugh. And this, okay, so this last chapter, I wasn't sure if Brook was related to Leuven or if it was kind of like an Anarchy, like a respect, like a big bro sort of thing. And here we get confirmation that they are actually not related and that this is just more of how their relationship formed. So Brook's like, well, I guess I'll call you Big Bro. And then he's like, as a token of our friendship, I'll treat you, Big Bro. I caught some grasshoppers and frogs today. Delicioso. The secret ingredient, you see, is curry powder. I obtain, he actually just says steal. I steal some from the naval ships that occasionally come here. It can make anything. And listen, I'm eating frogs and grasshoppers, so when I say anything, it can make anything taste like curry. And then Brook's like, well, I suppose it's not much of a secret ingredient now, is it? Because, you know, I kind of just gave it away. Leuven looks at it, and he gets a little bit of a flashback, like, of his own, just, you know, remembering his childhood, how he grew up. And of course, he's a prince, so he grew up in the complete, and I mean complete opposite scenario as Brook. And I wonder if this dichotomy, right, like his love for Brook and juxtaposed with his time growing up as a child, I wonder if that's why Leuven's just such a Chad. He's just so goated in the current era, is because, again, I might have mentioned earlier, he is Prince Leuven right now, so he is not the king yet. But I'll bet money that when Leuven does become the king, one of his very first goals is to do everything he can to prevent this sort of thing from happening in his kingdom. So I really think that, like, his deep understanding of the difference between how things are in reality and how he thinks they should be is just why he's so goated in his era as king. And so what it says here is today's soup of the day features a fresh catch from the Euro Peninsula. It's a dal abalone simmered in red wine, followed by prime A6 grade ruby beef. By the way, guys, Wagyu only goes up to A5. I see this happen a lot in anime. Or manga. They'll be like, this is grade A6. But that doesn't actually exist. Wagyu stops at A5. But it's media, and Oda can do what he wants, right? So, you know, he's got A6 grade ruby beef. I'm guessing that's just like the super high class, like One Piece's, or at least Esperia's version of Wagyu. And then he gets introduced to a lady from the Suffrone conglomerate. She graduated as valedictorian of the Inoa Academy. So now we're seeing suitors coming for Leuven, but in the past. And he's kind of like lost in thought, right? And Brook notices this and he asks, "Are you all right, big bro? Are you so happy you're tearing up?" Because he must be like, you know, having at least a little bit of, I guess, tears perhaps from this. And he says, "I can't believe I'm still in Esperia." What does that mean? Oh, I bet. Okay, I'm just a tad tired. I'm still happy to have this, though. I am guessing that maybe Leuven only recently found out that there are impoverished portions of Esperia. Like, Brook's probably not the only one. Maybe he's the most standout one because he sings and does his own stuff and gets into trouble, right? He does things to get himself noticed. But perhaps that this era is Leuven's introduction to impoverished parts of Esperia that maybe he didn't even know existed up until this point. Then he takes a bite of Brook's soup, and it's probably the worst thing he's ever eaten. You see a frog like entering his mouth, and then like lightning bolts around him, like, "Oh, what did I just eat? What, Brook? What did you make me eat?" And Brook's like, "Is it so good that you're convulsing?" So Leuven's royal blood is not responding well to Brook's frog and grasshopper, but he eats it anyway. And Brook's like, "I'm right. I mean, it's just that great." And then he's like, "It's time to get back to singing. I'll see you around, big bro." And it looks like Leuven is gonna try to give Brook some money, right? So that maybe, like in Leuven's eyes, he's like, this kid needs some real food. He doesn't even know what he's missing. But Brook's like, "Wait, I told you it's my treat. Don't fork over your cash. We're both going through hard times." So Leuven does not come to Brook looking like a prince, I guess. Even though he has pretty nice clothing on. Actually, he's got like a furry thing and he's got like a cloak. So he has nice clothes on, but Brook must still assume that maybe he's recently fallen on hard times. Whereas Brook's been already in the hard times. And then we get a montage of Leuven regularly visiting Brook. So he comes back a lot. He comes back with drinks. He comes back with treats. They go fishing. Leuven shows him stuff. Like, it looks like they catch a squid. Brook's playing music. I mean, Leuven like actually genuinely forms a bond and becomes friends with Brook, which the truth is, we love to see it. Then we cut to a scene where Brook gets caught by the Marines, a Marine escort ship. And they mistake him just taking regular curry powder. They mistake him as a courier for the Morone family, or the Morons from last chapter, Don Moron. But they're smuggling some kind of like special curry powder. I'm guessing it's like a drug of some kind. And Brook, who's just getting himself his regular old curry powder for his frogs and grasshoppers, gets caught. And he gets beaten nearly to death by the Marines. "Cut the crap. You suck at lying. We know it's you, boy. We know you're the courier. Those gangsters told you to drop off their powder, didn't they? Tell us, boy, where did you hide it?" And Brook's like, "I don't know anything about this. This is a mistake. Y'all have the wrong guy. You hear me? Y'all have the wrong guy." And, you know, like, Brook is very convinced that this is it, that he's about to die, right? The Marines are saying, "We paid our informant good money, and they said that it's you, that you have the stuff. So are you ready to tell the truth now? We ain't talking about some normal curry powder here." And then Brook starts singing his song, and he thinks to himself, and again, what he believes are his final moments. "It might only be for a split second, but as long as I keep on singing, dying doesn't seem so bad. It will be over soon. Goodbye, stray doggy. Goodbye, big bro. And these Marines who probably don't want to get caught, I wouldn't even be surprised if these Marines are actually somehow involved with the smuggling and the Maroon family themselves. He's like, well, the punk's seen our faces now. Let's kill him and go after the gangsters. So who knows if this is a guise or if they're just, they want the stuff for themselves or they want to make money or, they're a rat like Nezumi. It's pretty obvious. We've known for a long time that not a lot of the Marines are corrupted without the influence of the Celestial Dragons. And Brook says, of the dead, you'll find only bones get left behind. And then, as they're about to do him in, the door behind them gets kicked down by Prince Leuven yelling Brook. And the Marines are shitting themselves. They're freaking out. They're sweating. They're in shock. They're like, it's Prince Leuven. What is the prince? This is a homeless boy. What is the prince doing here? And Brook's like, big bro. And with Leuven, we have Candel, who, this is when she is the head of a guard. We'll get introduced to this later. This is before she becomes the queen. Brook's like, what? He's a prince? Leuven rushes in and gives Brook a hug and says, I'm really glad to see you, Brook. I don't know what I'd do if you died. So, this was made very evident to us. It is not like it's a secret in any way. But Leuven definitely cares about Brook. And then the royal guard's like, please stand back, your highness. Leave the rest to the guard corps. And Leuven's like, shut up. I'll handle this with my own hands. These damn bastards. They put my good friend through hell. Look at the state of him. What I'm gonna do. Listen. I'm gonna give these suckers a taste of their own medicine. And then they're like, hey, wait. It's Esperia's guard corps. And then they try to plead. They're like, Prince Leuven, we've apprehended the dealers from the Maroon family. We've also confiscated the illegal drugs and arrested their courier. And Leuven's like, their courier? And he probably shows them, and he's like, this is just regular ass curry powder. There ain't nothing special about this. And they're like, wait, Prince Leuven, you mean to tell us that this kid had nothing but regular curry powder? And Leuven's like, that's right. And the guard corps is like, your highness, please restrain your personal anger. The Navy has the backing of the world government behind it. And Leuven, this is why he's goated. This is why he's a Chad. I called him one earlier. Because he doesn't give a damn about the backing of the world government. He's like, if the government is going to shield scum like this, then our world is doomed. Isn't that right, Candel? And Candel says a line that makes me very nervous, actually. I am nothing more than your devoted steel blade. I'll always fight by your side. So, I haven't made any extra follow-up or theory videos about this sort of thing because I've been traveling. Like, I'm just not at home, so I don't have totally full access to this stuff. But Candel was dressed a lot like a God's Knight in the last chapter. And, we know that in God Valley, in the God Valley flashback, Gunko was referred to as God's Steel. It was like a entry point before becoming a God's Knight. And now Candel calls herself your devoted steel blade. So, this could be nothing, but it certainly makes me wonder if Candel is a God's Knight who was planted for some reason in the Esperia kingdom. Or she found herself there, not unlike how Garling ended up infiltrating God Valley ahead of that whole incident happening. So this wording is strange from Candel because calling herself Leuven's devoted steel blade is very, very similar to the God's Steel title that we know an individual can have before becoming a God's Knight from Gunko. So just think about that. I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to do any follow-up videos on this. My trip is 2 weeks long, so I may end up having to stick with just the regular reviews during this, but we'll see on how things go with time. And then the Marines are like, all right, you know what? If you losers are going to try to fight us, we're going to show you your place. We're Marines. And then Leuven's like, shut it. You're just garbage. And we have Leuven dual wielding. He's got one sword above his head. He's stabbing forward with the other one. He's got the wide Oda mouth. He looks super cool. And Candel's like stoic, like a fencing stance, kind of like how we see Brook fight going in. And they pulverized the shit out of these Marines. They never stood a chance. They were just the garbage that Leuven called them. And Brook is wide-eyed, well, wide eye, because he has a big swollen eye on the other one. He's a swordsman too? That's so cool. So Big Bro's a prince and he's a swordsman? Yeah. And then we cut to a scene later. Aline Satyr. A scene later, where the townsfolk are like, did you hear? They're saying that Lady Candel saved our country again. Then we cut to the Esperia Palace, where Brook is healing up. And Candel's like, I'm not angry at you. Oh yeah, here we see her introduction. Commander of Esperia's Guard Corps, Candel. And in the last chapter, we learned that she was the commander of the Guard Corps prior to becoming the queen. In any case, I'm not angry at you, Prince Leuven. I simply ask in the future, you keep in mind the weight of your personal standing. Leuven's like, I got it. I'm busy right now. Hey, Brook. And Brook's like, so you were a prince this whole time, huh, big bro? And Leuven's like, listen, Brook, listen about that. I'm really sorry. It is not like I meant to deceive you. I just really enjoyed spending time with you. And I think that Leuven was afraid that if Brook had found out that Leuven was a prince, that he wouldn't want to hang out with him and wouldn't want to become friends with him and would maybe even lump Leuven in with the king, whom Brook felt was at fault for the scenario that he was in. So Leuven wanted to come to Brook as a person, not as the prince. And so that is why he kept his secret. And Leuven's like, more importantly, you better not tell anyone that you swiped that curry powder. So maybe Brook actually accidentally swiped the special curry powder after all, without knowing what it was. That's possible too. So maybe he was doing his normal thing of just swiping the curry powder, but he actually did swipe the stuff the Marone family was after. And so Leuven's like, bro, don't tell anyone about it. Just pretend that this didn't happen. We're moving on. And then we see someone in the back. I don't know if it's a member of the Guard Corps or if it's Candel. They're like, every time Prince Leuven goes missing, it scares us half to death. I think it's Candel, actually. Yeah. Candel's like, every time Prince Leuven goes missing, it scares us half to death. I would never have guessed that you were spending your free time with such a cute little friend. And she like taps Brook, and Brook's like... So now we see the start of why Brook has the hots for Candel. This is it, right here. This is why it happened. And she's like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize your wounds were still so deep. And Brook's like, it's all good. No, don't worry about it. No, this was a good thing. This was great. This was great. Can I see your weight? He doesn't say that. I threw that in. And Leuven's like, anyway, tell everyone that this kid is my favorite musician. Get him a room in the barracks. Get him a proper musical instrument. Get him enrolled to attend in school. A new star is about to be born in Esperia. And Brook just can't believe it. He's like, whoa, he's like crying. And Leuven's like, I love this kid. And from now on, the palace is going to be a lot more fun. So, and then end of chapter, break next week. So we'll have a break next week. Maybe I will be able to do some kind of follow-up video, depending on my scenario, because there won't be a review to do next week. So put a pin in that one. And I mean, this is great to see. You love to see it. It's a huge shame that we know how this ends. It is no wonder that Brook has such disdain for Shuri because he thought that she did kill her father, again in the past, before he realized that control might have something to do with it. Because, like, Brook would have been dead. He was not kidding when he told Shuri, if it was not for your father, I would be bones. Right now. The Marines were going to offer him right there. That was going to be it. So not only did Leuven be his friend, not only did Leuven save his life, but then he also drastically improved Brook's livelihood and is the entire reason why Brook is the individual that we know today. And why he became the person that he did for the Esperia Kingdom. This is surely where he learned his swordsmanship from. I'm sure that Brook was trained either by Leuven or Candel, or both of them, to learn the swift slash. I would not be surprised if it was Candel, because it looked like the way that she fought is similar to the way we've seen Brook fight, even in the current storyline. And this is great. The flashback is continuing. You know, I think that there's probably going to be maybe another 2 chapters of this flashback, maybe another 3 chapters. It's going to be shorter. Of course, it's going to be shorter than Rock's Herald God Valley. That was a big beefy one. But and I really, guys, I'm going to end off on this so I can, you know, see about maybe getting this edited. I think the editing is going to be a little simpler than usual too. My laptop's not quite as beefy as my desktop. But I'm going to end off on this. By the end of this story, I hope that Brook and Shuri and maybe Leuven get to be happy and together in some way, and they live on and they sail off into the sunset. Because after everything that I think Emu and possibly even Candel put them through is crazy. It's wild. I guess one more thing, I was going to end on this, but one more thing. I think that, and this is kind of another hint towards the Candel for God's Night agenda, but I think that Gunko's official hair color was released as blue, and we know that Emu has it out for blue girls. That's his thing. That's his vibe. And so if Shuri has blue hair, Candel probably has blue hair too. I mean, it could be Leuven, but let's just assume that Candel has blue hair. And so she might have been tasked by Emu, go to this kingdom, go to any kingdom. We don't know if Esperia was targeted specifically or not. And make me a new God's Knight. Kind of just like how Shamrock did his thing and out comes Shanks. And, similar to how Garling did his thing. I might have said Shamrock earlier in this video, by the way, but I meant Garling. Similar to how Garling did his thing on God Valley, and out came a Shanks and a Shamrock. So, alright, well that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have anything you'd like to discuss or comment on this chapter, please leave it in the comment section below. I would love to hear more. And with that, I would like each and every one of you to have an excellent rest of your day.